Hi there. This is the Women's Eye Podcast, and I'm your host, Stacey Gualandi. Are you ready to build your money power with our own financial expert, Catherine Scrivano? Well, hello, Catherine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Stacey. Good to see you.
You too. Well, thanks to Catherine, the Women's Eye is all about smart females making smart financial decisions. And with 2025 just around the corner, oh my gosh, it's time for Catherine's sound advice on the financial tasks we need to tackle by year end. Now, this episode of our Building Money Power series is brought to you by CASCO Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. CASCO's president, Catherine Scrivano, started her business to help people create the financial strength to achieve their dreams. Now, Catherine, it is so great to have you back on the Women's Eye. I feel like we just did this for 2024, didn't we?
Yeah, the year has just flown. I think they all fly by, but this one feels especially speedy.
I
There's
know,
been a whole lot of
especially like
going on.
now through the end of the year, it just whips by. But as I said, well, okay, so it's year end.
hmm
I had
As
to
I
wear the
can tell,
sequins.
I was going to comment. I just love, I'm ready for New Year's Eve, thanks to seeing how you're dressed.
Exactly. It's like as the year comes to an end, that's the best part of it is sequins.
Yes,
So
there you go.
that's my thing. But now, as I said, we're tackling our year-end money to-do list, and
hmm
basically, so we can start the new year financially sound. But why is it so important to do this checklist every single year?
Virtually everything that we're going to talk about, I could make a great case doing it anytime during the year. But there are certain things that are opportunities that close on December 31st, most of them regarding tax decisions. So it's really important that we spend some time at the end of the year going through some of the things that we'll talk about right now. And if there are income tax impact to some of the decisions we make, now's the chance to do it. We can't go back after January 1 and say, you know what we should have done? It'll just be too late. So now's a good time to just spend 30 minutes kind of checkbox or checking some things off and then get back to planning for sequined dresses.
Exactly. But if somebody's never done this before, because a lot of times your clients, they're following your lead and doing this every single year. But if somebody has never renewed or reviewed their investment portfolio, what should they do?
Well, the first thing to do is kind of look at what you own and see how it's performed this last year. And more importantly, did it perform the way you expected it to? That there's some looking through kind of a critical lens at what you own. And something to be very aware of is, our portfolios, if we have a diversified holdings, they're not all going to respond and grow or not grow proportionately. It's inevitable that they're going to be out of balance, and you'll end up with some things that represent a greater percentage of the portfolio than you initially assigned it to. So you might want to consider selling some of those things, using that money to buy other types of investments, and just generally rebalance. And that's where the tax implications come in. If you're make, making those trades, doing that activity in accounts that's subject to income tax, you're probably going to want to visit with your tax professional first and understand what the impact is for those who are collecting Social Security or enrolled in Medicare. Believe it or not, these transactions may impact the taxes that you pay or the rates that you pay on those two things. So very often you just know it and absorb that and move forward, but finding out after the fact is usually pretty disappointing. So I think it's a great time to talk to your tax professional, tell them what you're thinking of doing before you do it. Of course, if you're making changes in a tax qualified account like an IRA or 401k, the taxes are not going to be your issue.
Yeah, so I think it's in this situation, no, it okay, if you haven't done it yet, um, it's okay, even if it's late in the year or whatever. I mean,
Sure.
just do it whenever you can get
Yeah,
going, and then make this an annual thing, because
yeah, like,
ultimately, having this to-do list or this checklist every year, what does that do for an individual or a family?
oh, heavens, so much. So, the good news, bad news of financial planning is that we're never done. Life events that I hope we'll get to talk a little more about come along and change things
Mhm.
in our personal life and over things that we don't have any control. So, for instance, we're looking at a new presidential administration coming along here soon, and we can anticipate how we will react to certain events. And if they happen, we have a plan in place. And if they don't happen, we have a plan in place. And we also have to recognize that there are going to be things that we just can't even anticipate. So the unexpected is always an opportunity. But if we have done our reviews, if we understand our place and its place in our lives, uh, it's not necessarily a negative thing. When the unexpected happens, we say, yeah, we know those things will happen, and we've already got a plan for handling it.
It's like we already have our head around the whole process,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
knowing our own financial portfolio. We know already where we stand personally. So
yeah, exactly. And what is the effect of those events on our families? You know me, I'm all about the values and the
bring it.
quality of our family lives. And some of those events, impact us, and having a plan in place for how we will react if they do is so empowering. It just makes all the difference between sleeping at night and not sleeping at night.
Exactly. It's like no panic. There's no panic
Nope,
button.
we don't panic. We don't panic. But we can be proactive. One of the things that I'm talking a lot to clients about right now, to the extent that they are able. Not everyone is able to uh, decide when to take their income. For instance, I met with my accountant yesterday, and we're projecting what my income might be next year versus this year. And there are some things that I'm going to do to defer income into next year.
Okay.
I may prepay some expenses this year. So that's my business. And I do have some flexibility and some control that someone who's simply getting a paycheck may not have. But if you're getting dividends or capital gains from your portfolio, you may start thinking about when you want to take those and how you want to hold them. Should they be held in an account that's currently taxable versus one that is not? So again, just being aware of your options is going to allow you to have the control to do what's right for you.
And that's what's great. And that's where you step in. You're the perfect person to give options. And I love that you even go see an accountant too. So
Oh, heck yeah.
yeah, you
I
are.
have a I have a financial planner. I think it's just really important to acknowledge that sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, and sometimes we are not objective. And I'm afraid that I have to confess that's true of me. I know what I want the end result to be.
Yeah.
So sometimes I will ignore signs that it may not be going my way. And it's really good to have someone who she cares a lot about me. She gives me very good advice, but she's also not afraid to say, you know what, you're
No,
overlooking something or you're avoiding something. There's an elephant in the room and we need to address it. So yeah, and my tax person is brilliant. So she's
that's
an
great.
important part of my life as well. So it's a team.
Absolutely. Well, and definitely this checklist, and getting ready for the new year and wrapping up the current year 2024. You have tips, it's five big advice tips that you've got. Obviously, you said review your investment portfolio. What would be the next step that someone
Uh,
would, once they've reviewed everything, then what do they do?
I think and it's very consistent with what we talked about before, is the potential for uncertainty. If you have not established a cash reserve, or you have one, but it's not adequate, consider how you might build up those reserves.
This is
And
like the emergency fund, right?
well,
Yeah.
you know what, though? I love to call it the emergency and opportunity fund, because the
Aha.
emergency fund implies that I expect something bad to happen and I want to survive that. And that's true. I want to survive the bad things. But I also don't want to pass up opportunities. If something great comes my way, I
Oh,
don't want to miss it because I didn't have enough cash to participate. So, and it certainly makes it a more positive experience to be saving and establishing that fund, knowing that chances are very good I'll get to spend it on something fantastic as well.
yeah.
But this is a great time to really be thinking about what does an emergency fund look like for you. If you're still working, we hopefully you've got at least 6 months of expenses tucked away in an account that is not subject to market risk.
You said 6 weeks?
6 months.
6 months. Gotcha.
It's 6 months. That's a bit of a boilerplate plan. Many people feel a larger, a larger number or a longer period of time. Some of that, again, if you're still working, you might think, what is the likelihood if I lost my job that I would have to spend a lot of time before getting another job that paid me as much? So your circumstances are going to dictate what's appropriate for you. But now is a great time to be paying attention to that emergency fund. Again, my advice, if you haven't established one yet, or if there's not enough in there, really make that a priority.
That's great. So it's ABS, always be saving.
There you go. I like it.
I don't know. People can use that if they want, but so the number three tip, I think that people always, and obviously this is something that you make sure people are aware of, is just what they want to do in terms of giving and gifts,
And we
right?
focus on that a lot right now in this season because most of my clients, I'm very fortunate to have very generous folks in our practice. So they're giving all year long. But we are, as a society, being reminded to give right now. We have Giving Tuesday coming up. Thanksgiving encourages us to be grateful and share. And then the holidays, we're thinking about giving gifts to our families and friends and to organizations and causes that we can support. And so, with that awareness, there's some opportunities to give to causes that you care about that can also benefit you financially. One of the things that I remind folks is if you want to give a gift to your favorite charity and you're going to fund it by selling stock and then giving the proceeds to the charity, there's a very good chance that you're going to have to pay tax on that sale. So that's less that goes to the charity
Oh,
because
okay.
of the dilution by taxes. But you could give the stock to the charity, let them sell it. You still have given them the full value of whatever that stock was. If they sell it, they don't pay taxes. So therefore, there's more that goes into the coffers. And potentially you're eligible for some deductions on that contribution. Again, that's something you want to talk with your tax folks with. But again, having that conversation before you act might give you some ideas of opportunities you would otherwise overlook.
Yeah,
If
it's so many charities, organizations here in Vegas, and many that I'm involved with. But is there a certain limit to the number of charities that maybe just focus on one or two that are near and dear to your heart, or
Yeah,
the more the
I
better?
that well, it's a personal preference.
Yeah,
Where you want to be able to make as much of an impact as you're able to, and that's going to be different for every person.
yeah. No, I always wondered about that too, because and also too, the more you give, maybe the more the benefit that you get too, as well, taxes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes it's like you said, personal preference
I
too.
I
But
think 100% of the time it's personal, but there is a tax consequence and implication. So you definitely want to screen your strategy through the taxes. Something that is only a few years old and many people are still unaware of is that if you are over age 72 and if you have IRAs, 401ks, those kinds of tax qualified accounts, and you're required to start taking money out of those accounts, you can direct those distributions right to a charity and not pay tax on them. So that's an opportunity again to not dilute your gift by taxes.
Yeah.
There are very specific rules around doing that. So I encourage you, as a matter of fact, I demand that you talk to your tax professional before you implement that strategy. It's
Yep.
not difficult. I don't want to frighten anybody, but if you don't meet the criteria, you won't get the benefit. So consider, we have a lot of people who tithe to their churches or give
Yes.
regularly to their churches. And we've asked them, stop doing that. Don't do it on your weekly when they pass the plate. Do a
Yeah.
one-time gift from your IRA. You're supporting your church in the same amount, but you're cutting out the middleman, which is Uncle Sam. So more
Okay.
dollars are being sent to doing the good work that you're interested in supporting.
That's great. Now, what
Yeah.
do you,
Yeah.
for your number 4 tip, update inventories? What do you mean by?
Well, there's this pause for reflection that we started with as we look back over the year. I bet you have changed some passwords, you've opened or
Oh,
closed financial accounts. Maybe you've had a big life change. You Marriages, deaths, divorce, a new child, a new grandchild. There's so many things that could have an impact on your financial future. And this is a great time to just stop, pause, reflect. You know what? One of my favorite sources for myself to stimulate is to go back through my photos that I've taken this year. And it
okay.
just triggers a memory and oh, guess what? As a result, I want to change, update, or eliminate something. Looking at subscriptions, those sneaky things that, you signed up for, and then
Oh yeah,
all
I
of a
just
sudden there's
canceled.
auto renewal. Yeah.
I just can't. Or my husband canceled and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's cancel that."
Yeah,
Because
it
it
made
just,
sense at the time. Right.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
this
it's,
this is that I call it an inventory because it's kind of my life inventory, and just seeing what needs to be updated or changed, what's impacting my financial plan, or just reaffirming that we're still on the right track. That feels good too, and actually happens more often than not.
yeah. You mentioned earlier too that you hope that to get into talking about it. I think you said about things that can happen, or as we look ahead, that we have to be prepared for the good and the bad, that kind of
Mhm.
thing too. So, yeah, what kinds of things that do you sort of prepare your clients for?
Well, that's actually my last to do on my yearly
Okay, great.
checklist is to set goals for the new year and beyond, and start thinking about the what if scenarios, and being able to reflect on what you've accomplished, pat yourself on your back, just acknowledge your successes, learn from the mistakes, and assume that you'll be able to move forward and do better going forward as a result. So doing the what if scenarios, we had a recent, it just worked out. It was so delightful, where we helped a client look at some what if scenarios. Her intention was to retire at 66. She was so miserable in her job.
Oh,
She couldn't figure out how to stay the course that long.
yeah, or
But
wanting to break free.
yeah, but we illustrated um, taking reduced hours and reduced income, but working for longer. And that feels so manageable for her. That's bringing the stress level down, allowing her more time to do things that she really cares about and enjoys. And she's willing to do that for a longer period of time. So she's going to semi-retire a little bit earlier, work a little bit longer. The numbers all work, and you should have seen the grin when she saw
Oh,
that. And she said, these are small compromises I can make, as
yes.
opposed to the daily compromise she feels like she's making, just, participating in the grind.
Yeah.
So start updating your plan, thinking about the future, short term, the next
Yep.
year or two, and long term. And then take the plunge and design some of those what if scenarios and see what needs to happen to make it work.
Yeah, and it's never too late. I was trying to think of that earlier, but it's never too late to start to get your financials in order.
Well, my constant refrain is the best time to start was yesterday. The
Yeah,
next best time to start is today.
you're good. I think you need to have t-shirts made with all your
Oh, me and my t-shirts. Yeah.
No, I think this is so great because ultimately, like your client you just mentioned, it is. It's like when you feel that you've got your financials in control as much as we can control,
Sure.
but it's just this amazing lift off their shoulders, and that they can kind of enjoy life. But and this is even maybe for people who are hoping to, not to maybe struggle so much in the new year too. It's everybody, all ranges of incomes, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There are very, very wealthy people who can never quite feel like they have enough.
Uh,
And it's all that's what I love about the work that we do is because it's all so customized. We don't
yeah,
have boilerplate recommendations. We may start with boilerplate just to see what areas need to be fine-tuned and customized. But it's great because we're getting to know these families, what's important to them, and devise the strategies that hopefully will help them get there. It's a real honor.
yes. Well, all right. To review, we've got 5 good tips from Catherine Scrivano for really for year-end financial tips. Starts with reviewing your investment portfolio,
Uh-huh.
all your stuff,
All your stuff.
basically.
Yes.
Yep. And then take stock of emergency and opportunity funds.
Mhm.
Consider making gifts and what to give and to whom.
Right.
Update your inventories, which I love because that really speaks to me. And just sit down and set some goals, right?
Yeah. And celebrate those things that you have accomplished so far. Not only celebrate having accomplished them, but having learned and no one can take that knowledge and experience away from you under any circumstance. So reflect on that and then see the opportunity going forward from mistakes or challenges that have inevitably occurred and will occur again.
Absolutely. Because don't beat yourself up, but just learn from the successes and the things that need to be worked on a
Yeah.
little better in the new year.
Well, I personally, this is my own value, is curiosity is such a great theme going forward for me.
Yeah.
And that applies to easy lessons, hard lessons, fun lessons, everything in between. Just being curious about them and how I'll apply them going forward.
Absolutely. Well, Catherine, thank you once again. I always love doing this
I
podcast
enjoy
because
this very much.
yeah, because you start getting distracted and it really kind of zones everything in. And what a great time to get organized as the year comes to an end. So, well, thank you so much. And of course, if you would like more fun financial facts and to find out more about Catherine Scrivano, you can just go to thewomenseye.com. And there you'll also find our books. We have 20 Women Change Makers. You just shop wherever you buy books and at changemakersbook.com. And one more, 20 Women Storytellers at womenstorytellersbook.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter and our YouTube channel. And again, thank you, Catherine, for your financial tips to wrap up 2024 and start the new year fresh and ready to build our money power. Exactly.
Thank you, Stacey. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. And to all of you, thank you for tuning into the Women's Eye podcast. Here's to a happy, healthy, and wealthy 2025. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.